The CFC!
CFC, the classic film channel. It's that one your grandpa always has on. You know, the channel that was playing that black and white movie when you found him.
Episode 4, The Producers. Not the film, or the musical, or the film of the musical.
You know what fucking movie is bullshit? That Willy Wonka fucking movie.
Charlie, don't forget what happened to the man who suddenly got everything he always wanted.
What happened?
He lived happily ever after.
Well, let me tell you firsthand, I am the man that got everything he wanted, and I'm the most miserable bastard on this planet. And I know another eccentric billionaire who used to invite kids over to his special wonderland. His name was Michael Jackson.
To understand the Hollywood where Fresh Balls was made, hell, to understand the 80s, you must learn to understand Lucio Lapine.
Ladies and gentlemen, the dazzling Whoopi Goldberg and the embezzling producer Lucio Lapine.
Lucio, long time no see.
Hello there, Whoopi.
Last time you saw me, you were trying to pitch Ghost 2.
I've pitched far worse.
You really are a son of a pitch.
Yeah, well, you're a fucking hack who hasn't done shit since 92.
And the nominees for Best Animated Documentary sure are.
Everybody has something to say about Lucio. Critic and author James Murphy.
I interviewed Lucio a lot for our abandoned book, and as interesting a man as he is, I don't know if anybody will ever get to the bottom of him. He's unknowable. He doesn't really know himself, but who does really?
Author and critic Stephen Sklar.
I understand him completely. The man is no enigma. He is an asshole. A philandering, pederast adulterer who's only ever as quick as the piece of tail he's chasing. Whether that be a humble critic's wife, or a UN dignitary, or a Playboy bunny, or again a simple critic's doting wife, the man is a shark to blood when a vagina is in his proximity.
Our very own Robert Mostel.
Lucio is a man clinging to the 70s. He is a figure of bygone Hollywood, attempting with each breath to pull a more rounded, diverse, intersectional, and progressive Hollywood back to the days of the sodomy of the 70s.
Richard Fondae, reviewer.
I love him. I think he's great. You know, he's like a shining star in this new Hollywood world where nobody can say anything anymore. I mean, it's not fair. You know, I can't even say racist jokes anymore. I'm not racist, so I should be able to say what I want. Why don't people understand? Hey, you want to hear one? So 4 black dudes.
Moving on. Author Harriet Lumay.
You know how at funerals, people always say, he was the best of us. Well, Lucio Lapine is the worst of everybody. He epitomizes the worst of everything. The only thing he hasn't done is assault somebody. You have no idea how surprised I was during Me Too. Every day I was just waiting for the tweet. It never came. To this day I am amazed. I saw David Copperfield in Vegas, and I was still nowhere as astounded as I was when Everyday Lucio never came up.
Lucy O'Neill, feminist culture critic.
I couldn't disagree more with Harriet. Once you get to know him, he is a figure of great sensitivity.
You really think that?
Of course not. He's the biggest pig still working. I wouldn't piss on him if he was on fire, or any of the other times he's asked.
Greg Riviera, Fresh Balls fan club president.
If I could come back tomorrow as any one person, it would have to be Lucio. Sure, you'd be taking the rough with the smooth, but the man is a god. No, not a god. That's silly. He is God. Amen.
Harold Rhian, noted film essayist.
Well, I think a lot of people write Lucio off as a vulgar, mob-like Italian-American, bringing the tactics of the mob into the world of Hollywood. I think a lot of people don't understand how hard it was for Lucio in the beginning. He was the subject of much racial profiling due to his heritage.
We talked with one of Lucio's childhood friends, Mitchell Derschowitz. I asked him how Lucio struggled as a child being Italian.
He didn't struggle at all. He struggled being a Jew.
Pardon?
Lucio Lapine is Yuri Greenbaum. His mother was called Yenta, for God's sakes. He was a Jew. He is a Jew.
His birth certificate reads Lucio Lapine. His autobiography has 100 pages about his years in Sicily before he came to Hollywood.
Me and Yuri went to the Bromhouse Picture House in North Agulia in the Bronx in 1972. We caught a couple of milk beer cocktails and we stuffed the flasks in our pants and we watched The Godfather. And Yuri said to me, I want to do that. I said to him, to his face, I said, you want to be a gangster? He said, no, you dumb shyster, I want to be an Italian. Then he punches me in the balls, the flask bursts. I said to the fella, I ain't no shyster, and you ain't no Italian, you're a Jew. He said, I'm not Jewish. I'm Lucio Lapine. I'm sat there in North Agulia, my ass is dripping in the flat beer and spoiled milk, and this guy's talking anti-Semitic to me. When's the last time you read those 100 pages?
All this week for prep?
Oh yeah? They don't sound familiar at all?
Which part? The olive oil business or the marriage to Apollonia? Oh.
His kids? Michael, Sonny, and Fredo? Ring any bells?
Oh, I was sucked in by the story.
Yeah. Who's the shyster now? Oy vey.
This was the first time Lucio had sat down with an interviewer in close to 10 years. I wanted to make the absolute most of this opportunity and really get to the bottom of this man's life, from his point of view and from as many other points of view as I could. Lucio was utterly eluding to me. He was at once both the most terribly interesting man I'd ever met, and, on the other hand, an idiot. Just like David Copperfield, not the magician. We had to start at the beginning.
Give it to me! Sweetie, get down!
Red hots, get your red hots.
The year was 1955. A black and white TV cost you $99.95, and a hand job cost you $20. Everybody drank milk, and the war was a memory. Walt Disney opened Disneyland in Anaheim, and in turn fires his first Jew. The novel Lolita is released, leading to decades of women questioning whether their boyfriends and husbands are literature enthusiasts or sexual perverts. In less than a year, the phrase, "it's actually more of a satire and a dark comedy," will be uttered for the first time. Pink clothes become all new fashion rage for men. However, for masculinity's sake, it is referred to as salmon, because nothing's straighter than fish. And, of course, Lucio Lapine was born.
I had a rough childhood. But then again, it was the 50s. Everybody had a rough childhood. This was the Bronx, after all.
Lucio's mother, Yenta.
We raised Yuri like a goddamn prince. Oh, sorry. Should I say Lucio?
My parents bullied and berated me.
He was my little prince. The worst I ever said to him was that he needed to find a good girl. He hated that I thought he was a queer because he never brought any ladies home. Then he did bring them home, and these women, oh my God, you should have seen them. No good girls. This was before he had money too, so it was understandable.
My father died when I was around the age of 5 years old in a car accident. He was driving in the slick rain of the night, and then the truck, then the other truck, then the plane.
Yuri's father was a no-good schmuck who left me for a year for a diner waitress who wanted to be a singer. He said, she's got the voice of an angel. Yeah, and more crabs than a Caribbean cruise liner. He came back a year later with gonorrhea, gout, and a good knockdown a few pegs, if you ask me. Yuri had already left by that time, and so when he died the next month, I got everything.
I had to leave home. I could never believe that such a world of cruelty and violence and horror could exist.
He said to me, Ma, I want to make money. I want to be Italian. I said, good for you, as long as you move out. He never sees me. Last time I saw him was that summer. Oh, and court a few times.
You took him to court?
For a settlement, yeah.
What was the basis of this settlement?
I'm his mother. What more basis do you need? You're not Jewish, are you?
I'm atheist, but I'm from a Catholic family.
And you're Yuri's new wife?
No, I'm making a podcast series about one of Yuri's films.
I'm sorry, sweetie, but you don't make a bit of sense when you speak.
When I think of my town, I think of the skyline. I think of the lights on Broadway. I also, of course, think of Sicily, where I was born. But when I ended up in the Bronx, I knew that I was home. That city, that smell, the heat, the intensity, the power of the pulsating streets. That was my town.
These were the first words of the 4th chapter, Just a Bronx Baby, from Lucio's autobiography, written by a ghostwriter, with the extreme supervision by Lucio himself. Originally, the book was to be written by James Murphy. I talked with James about his experience with Lapine.
Well, it became immediately apparent that the truth was something the man was not interested in. He would keep talking about how people don't want the truth, they want a good story. I would say that's not really the case with an autobiography. He would then go silent for around 5 minutes each time, trying to think of a comeback. Then he'd go into another room, make a call, usually to one of his comic friends, and then come back in and ask me to repeat myself. Then proudly say something vaguely witty, then leave again. I'm amazed we got anything down at all.
So you did write a lot with him?
I wrote a whole book. He threw the whole thing out.
The whole thing?
Oh no, sorry. In the middle of the book, we compiled a list of the women he'd had sex with. That stayed.
Following this troublesome experience, James Murphy went back to his mission of compiling the ultimate JFK assassination expose novel. Murphy's novel, What Lies Beneath the Lines of Warren, was a deeply expansive, tomb-like publication that thrived with its one-star witness, an unnamed source who Murphy simply titled Hopper. In an interview later in her life, actress and star of Fresh Balls, Barbara Hooper, was asked in a now infamous interview about whether or not she was Hopper all along.
Barbara, I've got to ask. Are you Hopper?
I only know one Hopper, Johnny, and his name is Denny.
Are you the Hopper of James Murphy's new book, What Lies Between the Lines of Warren?
Oh, that? Oh, yeah, that's me. That's a typo. I told him he could use my name.
I believe he was trying to keep you anonymous.
Why, so he didn't have to share credit?
No, Barbara, because it might very well make you a subject for government interest.
Why? I didn't kill him.
Barbara, I know you're not Lee Harvey Oswald.
Yeah, Oswald, sure.
For much of his childhood, Lucio was a simple child, playing stickball and bullying kids poorer than him. Lucio also never had much luck with the women. However, Lucio's first love was in 1972, the same year he saw The Godfather, and forever became Lucio Lapine. That same year, he met Hurdy Burm-Baylin. And although her name sounded like the Swedish chef talking, Lucio fell in love right away.
I believe that one of the reasons for the deep division about Vietnam is that many Americans have lost confidence in
The
what
year
their
was
government has told them about our
1972.
policy.
For Christmas cheer, Richard Nixon orders a bombing of North Vietnam to show the world that Christmas is not just a time for being good, but also being abhorrently politically evil. Riva Ridge is the winning horse of the Kentucky Derby and will go on within the year to win 2 more races, and also best dish at a local cookout to the jockey's family barbecue. Prozac is first developed and has early tests proving that it will work best before a hot bath and with a large glass of Chardonnay. Statistics regarding consumption of milk go up to 125%.
I was 17 at the time, and in 1972, that was still considered very old to get married. But I knew from the first moment that I saw Hurdy that I just had to marry her, and that she was going to be the woman I spend the rest of my life with.
Hurdy Burm-Baylin rarely gives interviews. However, after we bullied her under duress, she finally decided to speak to us and share her side of the story.
Yeah, I remember meeting Lucio for the first time. It was on the corner of Hurdy and Fruget, you know. Lucio and his Italian friends were playing games you don't really see anymore, like Can at the Wall and Cat Kicker. I walked past with my two girlfriends, Lucy and Sammy, and they just immediately started berating us.
She was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. She had these legs that... God. Her hair was just incredible. She was truly amazing. Of course, in the end, I didn't end up with Lucy. I ended up with Hurdy. But Hurdy was also very attractive. I'm not really a guy to settle.
They chased us 3 blocks until we were out of breath, and then they asked us out for soda and milk at the diner store. I mean, this was 1972. Everybody was drinking milk. But everybody else was tired, so it just ended up being me and Lucio. He had a beer, milk and chocolate scoop sundae, and I had my soda milk, and we talked the night away.
Hurdy was a great girl. She really was.
It was the first time I fell in love.
It was the first time Yeah, she was a real great girl.
Do you, Lucio Don Vito Lapine, take Hurdy Burm-Baylin? You both in witness protection or something? What the hell kind of names are these?
When I look back at it all, not to get too depressed or whatever, but those were probably the best. No, they were good, but God, I just went from better to better to better to better to better to better to better after that. Yeah, I had a great life. But Hurdy was pretty great.
During the beginning of his career, Lucio was as far removed from the world of producing as one can possibly be. He was creative.
I was in the movie brat generation. I was a writer-director, and I was contemporaries with Scorsese, De Palma, Bogdanovich, all of them. Those were the good old days.
Lucio and Hurdy had a rough first couple of years in their marriage. Hurdy was paid a dime every 4 hours in a typical of the era Bronx laundry as a mangle operator, a role which had had a turnover in the past 3 months of over 6 people, due to them being swallowed up whole by the mangle. Lucio was also working a truly horrible job, a graveyard shift at an actual graveyard, where Lucio's job was to remove from the premises what were politely referred to as, corpse enthusiasts.
They were tough days. Me and Hurdy struggled, but we had each other, and that was all that mattered. The job at the cemetery, however, did give me plenty of time in the day to write, and the same day that I had to beat away a masturbating hobo from an old woman's tombstone, I finished my first screenplay.
That screenplay would become the film that would make Lucio a household name, The Last Days in Writin'. However, the minute he finished it, Lucio threw the copy in the trash.
I picked it out of the garbage can right away. It was covered in the scraps of that night's meal. I remember we had lasagna, so I had to read through the stains. Oh, but it was beautiful. It had so much character, each layer exquisitely crafted. And the sauce, it was my mother's recipe. But enough about the lasagna. Anyway, I finished the script, and I just knew it was something special. I knew it had to be shared. I immediately went to the typewriter and typed out the whole thing again. This time, not covered in lasagna. He'd only gone and written the most beautiful thing I'd ever read.
Yeah, I guess I had a bit of a talent for it, but nowhere near as much as producing. That's where I get my real satisfaction from.
Do you ever think about if Hurdy never got that script out of the trash?
Well, I wouldn't be here. I'd probably still be working minimum wage. I'd still be with Hurdy, of course, but hey, what does true love and happiness matter when you've got cash? I still think of her every time I have a milk soda.
And that's often?
Every night, after I brush my teeth. Sweet, bubbly, frothy milk in my mouth. I can't sleep without it.
Lucio managed to find in his already relentlessly filled schedule enough time to pick up another job.
Hurdy's birthday was coming up, and I wanted to get her a nice necklace. We'd walked past this little store. It was only this cheap thing, but her face lit up something special, so I had to get it for her. I had to. So I needed to work another couple of jobs to get the cash.
Lucio found this extra work from a friend who set him up to waiter at the party of a Hollywood producer at his New York apartment. The man's name was Cecil Bronselahalem. Cecil would die that night.
Well, I was waiting drinks and I saw this guy panting heavily and stumbling around, and I saw him stumble into his office, so I went and followed him, see if he was all right. I walked in and the man was taking off his clothes, his suit. He was stripping down, ass naked. He kept saying he couldn't breathe and that he was burning up. So I went over to help him. By the time I reached him, he took his final breath. Dead. Absolutely dead as a doornail, like Bob Marley in A Christmas Carol.
Lucio went to pick up the phone to call for an ambulance.
That was my first port of call before alerting the party.
Lucio went to make the call, but then...
It was a guy, and he said...
The following was recreated by an actor.
Cecil, you ready to show me that script yet? Oh, what was it again? A drama? Oh, I've told you already, I'm ready to put my million in whatever you...
It was exactly the plot of Tim Allen's Santa Claus.
Lucio hid Cecil's corpse in the corner, put on his suit, and sat in his chair, turned away.
And I said, "Come on in."
That unnamed investor ended up funding a then unheard of amount of $3 million into a fresh and exciting new script by a first-time director. The script was called The Last Days in Rhian. The director was a young buck named Lucio Lapine.
I dressed Cecil back up, went back out, the ambulance came, and one day after Cecil was buried, we started shooting Rhian in North Carolina. The autopsy revealed he was poisoned.
He was poisoned? That's why he couldn't breathe?
Big time, yeah! I ruined the whole timeline of events, too, pretending to be him for a couple of hours, so the actual guy got away with it. They ended up gassing some kid serving hors d'oeuvres. Terrible how things turn out sometimes.
In the hottest summer the state had ever reported, and through great creative turmoil, the result became Lucio's first and only directorial credit. The film was an immediate commercial and critical success, following the horridly tragic story of a marriage falling apart in a small Kentucky town, with the town's piano player falling for the blind and deaf daughter of a preacher. The story was beautiful. The performances were effervescent. Lucio's direction was sublime. The whole time, through it all, Hurdy stood by him.
When Lucio was directing and writing, there really weren't that many problems. I went down with him to Carolina and ended up as the costume designer. Those days in Carolina were glorious when I think of them now.
Then came award season. One after another, award after award, Lucio's career was only cemented further.
Award after award, it never seemed to stop.
And the award for Best Original Screenplay goes to Lucio Lapine for The Last Days in Rhian.
Best Director is awarded to Lucio Lapine.
And Best Actress tonight is Jennifer Moulin, Last Days in Rhian.
I owe everything I did in that film to one man, Lucio. Lucio, darling, you are the light.
Is there anything this man cannot do? Lucio Lapine for The Last Days in Rhian.
Best film is awarded to... No surprise here, Lucio, get up here!
I am up here solely because of one woman. Hurdy, you know what you are to me. You're the only woman I ever want to wake up with. You're my rock, you're my life, you're the best. I love you, and this is for you. Not literally, you didn't actually do anything for the film, but you're still great. People often ask me if that's the biggest award I've ever received, but I'd be lying if it wasn't hearing my name on Watch Mojo.
Hi, welcome to Watch Mojo. Today we're breaking down our list for the top 10 Hollywood producer sex scandals that didn't break the law.
So what is the biggest director and writer in Hollywood to do next? The answer, oddly enough, was to help out a friend.
I was friends around that time with Hardy Chandler, and he needed a producer for his film, so I said, sure, I'll help out whilst writing the next screenplay.
But that script never came.
Yeah, Hardy's film was the Vietnam flick called Jungle of Nightmares, and I was producing it, and suddenly it all became so clear to me. I wasn't really doing anything. No hardship, no work, just saying things and answering questions then and again. Going out for drinks and meals, gland handling, that sort of thing. Less time, less trouble, and more money. That's when I realized I was born to be a producer.
As I said, that script never came to be. That was the film he met Angela on.
Angela Chaparro was one of the hottest upcoming actresses of the era and one of the most beautiful women ever put on a screen.
You know that scene in like every Scorsese movie and biopic where the main guy leaves his really nice and pretty first wife for the sexiest woman you've ever seen, and it's really awesome and really great? It was exactly like that.
Angela left him 2 days after our divorce was finalized. He threw everything he had away with me for what I'm sure was 2 good weeks in a slum hotel in Vietnam. Angela Chaparro was one of the best-looking women I've ever seen. But I have no doubt in my mind that Lucio Lapine will never be loved again. I will die, and on my gravestone they can write in bold letters that I was the one woman who ever loved him.
She said that?
Those were her words, yes?
I didn't even know. Angela was great. Hurdy's just jealous, or whatever. Hurdy... I haven't talked about her in so long.
We can take a break, if you'd like.
No, it's fine. What's next, 1980?
Yeah.
Okay, then let's do that bullshit.
1980. Start of a new decade and start of a whole new life for Lucio Lapine. In New York, 2 truly tragic events occur. The death of John Lennon and the birth of Lin-Manuel Miranda. And Lucio Lapine, the producer, officially enters the Hollywood scene and absolutely blows it apart from the inside.
I wanted to put Angela into the leading role of the next film I was to produce. It was a big, bold musical adaptation of Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead, completely rewritten for a female lead to work to Angela's best strength. And despite major litigation from the Rand estate, the film was a huge critical success, again winning all the awards possible and just earning every rave review you can imagine. Of course, it was largely tainted by Angela leaving me, but the critical acclaim helped ease the blow. What didn't help was the simple fact that the film barely made any money.
Film critic Harold Rhian.
It wasn't a loss. The movie did make back its money and made a small amount after that line. But overall, the film was simply a critical darling without any major commercial viability.
That's when I realized my true passion was not for making art, but for making money, and also fucking as many women as I possibly could.
Critic Stephen Sklar.
From that point on, Lucio solely produced big-budget comedies and action films, built from the ground up to make bountiful amounts of money. Cutting corners and finding huge stars was the model. And the model worked.
But the main goal was the chicks, you know, Sally Field, Julia Roberts, Olympia Dukakis, Shirley MacLaine, Dolly Parton, and Daryl Hannah ain't just the cast of Steel Magnolias. They're the guest list of the best orgy I have ever had. The orgy was at Milton Berle's after party for John Huston's funeral. Houston wasn't dead yet. They had this ongoing prank thing going. People say George Clooney pranks people now, but not like Burl and Houston. Now, I ain't seen Clooney sedate and bury a man alive and tell the press of a tumor. Classic Burl. I went with Olympia once more to a Burl orgy that was after Natalie Wood's funeral. That was no prank. Or was it?
However, something that has marred Lucio's history as a producer for many years has been his many nefarious tactics used to fund his films. Specifically, his links with terrorist cells.
Look, I thought it stood for Irish Representation Agents. I wanted Liam Neeson in my movie, so I contacted them, and sure, maybe I accidentally funded the Brighton hotel bombing on Thatcher, but that's a case where I tell people, they actually thank me.
1981. Mr. Worldwide Ronald Reagan is involved in both the Cold War and the Iran-Contra scandal. Artist Pitbull, alias Unknown, is also born this year. A fire at the Las Vegas Hilton kills 8 and injures 198. A gambler who saw the event stated, "I had my money on 9. And of course, the reason we're here in the first place. Fresh Balls is released.
Look, you're spending 5 whole fucking episodes on it. We don't need to talk any more about it here.
I agree.
Let's talk about something else.
Let's talk about your failures after Fresh Balls.
Please, just take me back to the 70s, where everything was kosher, and everybody fucked everybody, and there was all the money in the world, and I was loved, and I was happy. Can we please just do that?
We're going chronologically. We're way past the time when you were happy.
Tell me something I don't know. You've done your research. You know full well it's downhill from balls onwards.
In 1981, Lucio, just like David Copperfield, the magician, began developing architecture and wildly expensive themed restaurants, mainly that of bushnet diners.
Look, Balls was making a bit of a cult following, so I thought I'd ride the fucking thing and make a little money. So I had waiters in tennis skirts and multiple real-life courts in the middle of the restaurant. The problem was, of course, that the balls flew everywhere. People would be having their chicken and a goddamn tennis ball would hit them in the face. But it was a nice place. We had good big sandwiches and enough milk drinks to shake a cow's tit at. But it just didn't work. We managed to make our money back on the diner, though, and get out of there. Themed restaurants were all the rage, so we took advantage.
You made your money back on the New York location?
Yeah.
What of the other 26 locations?
Well, that's a different story. New York was a moderate success. East Coasters loved tennis and fine club sandwiches, so it was a hit. But Chicago, they liked baseball. Carolina was too hot. Alaska was too cold. There was no real tennis scene in Ohio, Azerbaijan, or Moscow. Libya, Niger, Kenya, Cape Town, and Cuba were all bust too. We went to Yemen before the salmon fishing craze, so they really didn't buy into us. Iraq and Kazakhstan were quite hostile to a tennis-themed restaurant for a movie that they never heard of. Did I mention Niger?
You did, and you really don't have to list all of them. Just tell me, how is it that every last one ended up closing?
It was weird, actually, how that happened. Over the course of a month, each and every one of them burnt down. Completely random and completely without any fault on our end. Completely random.
And this has nothing to do with Aswar Farrell?
Oh, so a man has an Iranian terrorist friend. Immediately, he's the one who he hired to firebomb all 26 chains of his themed restaurant. Pretty dicey statement there, Daisy. It's not 1989 anymore. Don't you know you can't be racist?
You couldn't be racist in 1989.
And yet...
The year was 2001. Following Bill Clinton's endorsement that he would like to see more Bush and Dick in his office, George Bush and Dick Cheney are set to become the new president and vice president of the United States. However, later in the year, that September, in a tragic moment for the country, Zoolander is released.
9/11 was terrible for me personally. A truly tragic day.
You lost someone?
No, God, I've never liked accountants, and all my friends have private jets. No, that was supposed to be the big day of Lapine Park. Hello, I'm Lucio Lapine, everybody's favorite film producer. I'm here today to invite you to a very, very special place. Yes, it's Lapine Park, where you get to be inside the movies. Come on in. They're having so much fun, and they don't even know the half of it. This place has everything any good theme park should have. Plenty of rides, excitement, and opportunities to spend your cash. Every last dime will take it all here at Lapine Park.
Hi, I'm Michael Douglas. Over at Lapine Park, you finally get to experience the pulsating sexuality of my many erotic thrillers in Douglas Land. Experience the Basic Instinct Ice Pick Toboggan Ride, or perhaps the Disclosure Virtual Reality Experience is more your sort of thing. For the kids, there is even the Alex Forrest Petting Zoo. There's something for everyone over at Lapine Park.
That's Lapine, Michael, but thank you. Don't forget, we also have multiple gourmet restaurants where you can enjoy the culinary talents of Steven Seagal. Yeah, I didn't even know he could cook either.
Arigato. Here at Seagal's, I only prepare the finest Asian cuisine for my fellow karate brothers in arms.
But it's not just Michael Douglas and Steven Seagal who I've roped into this. There's so many other celebrities you've yet to meet.
Hello, I'm Wilfred Brimley, and I'm here to tell you all about the exciting lazy river ride, Cocoon Lagoon, here in Ron Howard Village, here at Lapine Park. All your favorite Howard joints are here to ride. Parenthood, the 4D movie. Splash, the 4D movie. It's all there to do and more in Ron Howard Village at Lapine Park. Do I get paid now or later?
There's all this and a moderate amount more here waiting for you at Lapine Park. This is my advert, so I'm gonna say it plain. Fuck Disney in the ass. But that 6-foot diabetic prick Bin Laden just had to go and ruin it for everybody. Then, 1 month later, the whole place burned down randomly. I swear to God, I have the worst luck. It was like deja vu. It was like things were all going badly again, but slightly different. But you recognize it, you know? The best way I can describe it is like when you hear a song that Billy Crystal parodied at the Oscars after you've heard the parody already, and you're like, I know this, but all you have are the fake lyrics. That's the best way I can describe it.
That's the best way you can describe deja vu? The huge financial implications of the disaster surrounding Lapine Park, paired with the disaster of Bushnet diners and fresh balls and absolutely anything else that Lucio touched since he left Hurdy, left Lucio completely bankrupt and a complete failure.
No, that's not right.
Which part?
I had over $100 million in duffel bags in the Sudan with Aswa Hurdy. I put all of that into the stock market, and I've been completely financially stable and frankly absurdly rich ever since. Then, of course, they started remaking everything. Writing, the comedies I produced, the action flicks. Most months I get residual checks and rights payouts that boggle my brain the amount of zeros that they do indeed have. I have more money than I could ever spend.
You have money, yes. What don't you have?
I have everything I will ever need.
You had everything at one point.
You want to know the absolute truth? My greatest talent is making things disappear. Just call me David Copperfield. You don't by any chance have Hurdy's number?
She did the interview on the strict guidance that you had no contact at all with her.
That's fair. That's fair. So this is going to be the sad episode, huh?
You've been listening to Outer Bounds, the true story of a true Hollywood true disaster. Episode 4, The Producers, not the film, or the musical, or the film of the musical. Directed and edited by Thomas Carruthers. Written by Thomas Carruthers with additional material by Rhian, Holmes and William Leggetter. This episode's cast: Ava Robinson as Daisy Goldman, Deborah Robinson as Yenta Greenbaum, Thomas Carruthers as Lucio Lapine, Robert Mostel, Wilfred Brimley, and Michael Douglas. Freddie Farrell as Harold Rhian, Mitchell Derschowitz, and David Copperfield. Jay Reef as Stephen Sklar and Southern Recreation actor. Natalie Thorn as Hurdy Burm-Baylin and Oscar announcer. Rhian Holmes as Barbara Hooper. Sam Ghomi as Richard Fondae, Greg Riviera, and Steven Seagal. William Atterton as James Murphy. William Leggetter as Willy Wonka and Oscar's announcer, with Hannah Mora Farrell as Charlie Bucket, Ollie Tandosen as Whoopi Goldberg, Molly Jennings as Harriet Lumet, Sinead Gilligan as Priest, Talia Webby as Jennifer Mulan, Jasmine Doughton as Watch Mojo Lady, Kirsten Fraser, Jack Webb, Josh Bellwood, and Natasha Hopkinson as other Oscar announcers, and Andrew Michael Ragg as the voice of the CFC. This show has original music by Alex Reeve and Mike Whiting, further music curation by Thomas Carruthers and Alex Reeve acquired under a Creative Commons license. This show is produced by Rhian Holmes, with artwork as well as the theme for the Classic Film Channel by William Leggetter. Certain sound effects performed by the Royal Court Theatre Vocal Effects and Foley Society. We thank you sincerely for listening and hope you tune in for the next episode, The Final Set.
Hello, I'm David Copperfield, famous magician and idol to many. I just want to clarify something. Any time throughout this program that I have been referred to was with my complete consent. The more you mention my name, the stronger I get. I am not a man, I am a magician. The question is, do I have a god complex? Which makes me wonder if this podcast host has any idea of the sorts of qualifications one has to achieve to be accepted in a top magician circle. Or if you have the vaguest clue how talented in the craft of magic someone has to be to lead a team of budding sorcerers. I have an MD from Harvard, a certificate from the Magic Circle, and season tickets to my rival shows on the Strip. I have been awarded awards from 7 different boards of magicians and Las Vegas entertainment circuits, and I am never sick when I eat the Vegas casino buffets. So I ask you, when someone goes into the Copperfield Theater at the Las Vegas Grand and they sit in their extraordinarily priced seats and they pray to God that the money will be worth it, who do you think they're praying to? Now you go ahead and read your Bible, Dennis.
My name is Daisy.
And with any luck, you may win the front row raffle and get a completely inorganic high five from me. But if you're looking for God, he was on that stage, doing tricks and blowing people away, and he doesn't like to be second-guessed. You ask me, I have a God complex? Let me tell you something.
You are God?
You stepped on my best line.